All right, 5 final albums to get you into extreme music. I was going to stop at the previous list, but we could push it one step further here. This is meant to be a progression from the suggestions on the previous list. However, I do feel like with Cryptopsy's None So Vile, we kind of pushed that to its logical conclusion. So number one on this list is going to be Revenge, Triumph, Genocide, Antichrist, a Canadian black metal band, sometimes referred to as Bestial Black Metal, sometimes referred to as War Metal. They were inspired by early black metal greats like Blasphemy, with a heavy dose of grindcore and hardcore influence, as well as some death metal influence in there. Violently aggressive, violent lyrics, really harsh production style, some throat shredding vocals, blast beats galore, and just a wall of sound created by tremolo pick guitars. This is as aggressive and extreme as you can get in this style of music, and the really harsh production only makes it more extreme. The other band in contention here was Pissgrave, who are a death metal band from Philadelphia, more modern, but I felt like this would be the better way to progress into this style of music. So Revenge is the band. Check them out. All right, number two on this list, if you enjoyed Dragged into Sunlight, Hatred for Mankind, I'm going to recommend Dispirit, Enantiodromian Birth. I do think the logical progression from Dragged into Sunlight is more war metal, but I feel like I kind of covered that already with Revenge. But I would still check out bands like Concrete Winds, Titan Blood, Antichrist Seas Machine. All of those were in contention here, but we're going with Dispirit. Dispirit kind of create a similar atmosphere to Dragged into Sunlight, but take you there much differently. This is doomy black metal from Oakland. This features John Gossard of the band Weakling, which is an incredibly famous black metal band, as well as the band Asunder, which is a famous funeral doom band. You kind of put both of those styles together and you get something similar to Dispirit. It's psychedelic, doomy, slow black metal. It genuinely sounds like the type of music that would be made from a witch that's like sacrificing trolls in the middle of a cave. Definitely worth checking out. All right, number three on this list, if you enjoyed Cannibal Corpse Tomb of the Mutilated, I'm going to recommend Devourment, Molesting, the Decapitated. How do you get more extreme than Cannibal Corpse, a band that is well known for pushing death metal to its most absurd extremity? You turn to slam, which is a term coined by a member of the band Internal Bleeding, a sound that you could trace back to Suffocation's early material, but a genre that was largely legitimized by Devourment. Down-tuned guitars, mid-paced chugs, the most froggy, burped vocals known to mankind, and a very distinct rattling snare sound. Other bands in contention here were Suffocation, Dying Fetus, Mortician, Disgorge, all bands that I love, but I do think on this album, Devourment gives you the most Neanderthal, caveman, knuckle dragging, exaggerated version of this sound, which is really the heaviest possible way you can take death metal. All right, number four on this list, if you enjoyed Today's the Day, Sadness Will Prevail, I'm going to recommend Gnaw Their Tongues, All the Dread Magnificence of Perversity, a Dutch one-man band rooted in black metal. There's elements of harsh noise, industrial, electronic. There's orchestral components on this album. And Gnaw Their Tongues are incredibly experimental, atmospheric. This plays much more like a horror movie soundtrack than it does an actual album with distinguishable songs. You're not going to be like, oh, let me replay track 3. It all kind of blends together. It all plays like one nightmarish horror movie soundtrack. But honestly, I feel like this album is pretty artful given how extreme it is. I've seen some people say that Gnaw Their Tongues is like difficult to listen to or pretentious. I definitely don't view them that way. I think if you enjoy stuff like The Body, you'll find some enjoyment with Gnaw Their Tongues. Definitely a great band with a huge discography, incredibly prolific artist, well worth checking out. All right, number 5 on this list, if you enjoyed Insect Warfare's World Extermination, I'm going to recommend Last Days of Humanity, Putrefaction in Progress, another Dutch band here. The only way to go from the grindcore of Insect Warfare is to goregrind. And although I prefer and listen to a lot more early Carcass and bands like Exhumed than I do Last Days of Humanity, they are definitely more extreme. This is vocals that don't sound like somebody screaming. It's pitched vocals. It sounds like either a monster or somebody getting blended up in a garbage disposal. Walls of noise created from a guitar that just sounds like sheet metal being blended up, and blast beats that are genuinely amazing to like. It's hard to believe they're not coming from a drum machine. Super fast, just violently disgusting, gross music, and a legendary band in this style of music. So definitely the logical conclusion to grindcore. All right, that's the five. That's the last five in this series. Although I do think you could push all these even more extreme. You can get into more harsh noise stuff like Merzbow. There's definitely bands that push slam even further. There's probably even more disgusting gore grind. I think at a certain point you start to get diminishing returns and it feels like much more of a novelty than actual artful music. So this is the last version of this particular list. I'll do more in different styles and many more to come. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more like this, and hopefully you check these out and don't play them around your parents.